Fear Not, Episode 16. Hi, I'm Billy Atwell, and I believe that consistently facing your fears is the only way to realize your truest self and to make those confident choices that will help you to obtain your deepest held hopes and dreams. I have faith that this podcast series will show you that you are not alone, that it will strengthen you and give you courage to face your fears, and that it will help you to permanently cross over into a life of living beyond your fears. Join me on this journey as we listen and learn from others as they share their experiences in facing and overcoming their own fears. Hello, everybody. Today, you and I are going to be joined by Shawn Sisneros. Welcome, Shawn. Are you ready to fear not today?
I am.
Shawn is a licensed acupuncturist and Chinese herbalist and holds a master's of traditional Oriental medicine from Pacific College of Oriental Medicine, Chicago. During the 4 years of study, Shawn focused on traditional Chinese acupuncture techniques and Chinese herbology. While in school, he took part in an externship at Project Vita, a community clinic that cares for the Latino and American African communities living with HIV and AIDS. In conjunction with his acupuncture training, Shawn also completed a shiatsu certificate program at Zen Shiatsu Chicago, where he developed his palpation and bodywork skills. His interest resides in treating the whole person mentally, emotionally, and physically. Shawn is interested in the somatic experience a person has when there is an imbalance in the systems of the body. His dedication resides in striving to understand these systems to be able to work towards creating whole body balance in the patients he sees. With all of his combined life experience, education, and dedication to understanding the dynamics of Eastern and Western medicine, Shawn looks forward to looking at all the parts and providing a scientific and holistic practice that will facilitate a space that can foster change in the health and longevity of his patients. Shawn, can you take a few minutes and fill in the gaps and maybe give us a brief glimpse of your personal life?
Well, I live in Chicago. I moved here from Oklahoma back in 2010, and I came here in an attempt to continue with my artwork. That's what my background is in. And life just kind of had a way of directing me differently. So that's how I found my way to acupuncture school.
Well, great. Thank you for that glimpse. Can you share with us one of your biggest fears that you've had to face and tell us what did you do to overcome it?
I would say my biggest fear that I've had to overcome is actually myself, right? I would say that just in overcoming the fear that I wasn't enough or that I didn't have enough, or just, I mean, that can extend to whatever. I mean, it just was extensive as far as that is concerned. And the way that I've overcome it is, I think, through different life experiences, whether they've been challenges or things that I've had to face, learning how to find that strength within myself to be able to believe that I can do certain things. For example, is one year a whole group of friends went cliff diving, and it terrified me to do this. So many things ran through my head, and that was kind of one of the first moments that I saw some of the strength that I had, that I possessed. I challenged myself. I jumped off a 30-foot cliff, and it was pretty exhilarating, terrifying as well, but exhilarating. And from then on, it just kind of, when come to the point in my life where I need to face things, I reflect back to that moment, and it helps me kind of walk it out and be able to do it, even if I do still feel afraid.
So, would you say that you use that as your daily practice and habit? I mean, is that what you use to constantly stay out of fear, or do you have another method or, like I said, a personal habit or practice?
I think it's a cumulative thing. There's times where I meditate. I have self affirmations as well that I'll utilize. I write little things to myself on my mirrors around my place that help remind me. I think having a good support group, as far as like friends and family who I can bounce things off of, or when I get in those spaces that I can talk to about. So I say it's not like a specific daily practice, but those are the things that I use in my life as a life practice.
Could you share with us a resource that might help us in our own journeys and overcoming our own fears?
I would say that for, okay, again, for myself, these are some of the things that have worked for me. I've practiced yoga in the past. I don't have a solid practice right now, but those are things that have definitely helped me. Yoga, meditation, finding inspiration as far as different books. I've read Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Buddhist monk from Vietnam, and there's many of his books that I've found very useful. So I feel like life ends up presenting me with different things at different parts of my life. So again, it's not one particular resource that I have. It's cumulative, but those are some of the major ones that I've used.
Just out of curiosity, you mentioned using yoga as a practice to help you overcome fear. Could you, because I've heard other people say that as well. How is it that that works for you? What does that do for you personally that helps you stay out of fear?
So yoga is really interesting in the sense that, I think as Americans, we might just practice exercising as a form of like just coping in a lot of ways. But yoga is particularly interesting in that it really gets you in touch with your body and where you have uncomfortable spaces within it, and it really makes you face yourself quite a lot. So, and I think sometimes that's the hardest thing, is being able to sit with yourself when you're uncomfortable. And I really feel that that is kind of one of the ways that has really brought me to attention to who I am, things that I face, because a lot of stuff comes up during sessions. Especially when you're going to an actual, like a really good yoga studio, where it's not kind of just like cranking out yoga poses like the way we tend to do here in the West. It's a lot more meditative, introspective. You do a lot with breath work. So I've found that when I'm in a deeper practice like that, it really does help you face a lot. And a lot of that, like I said from the beginning, I mean, that's been my biggest fear, is that just kind of the fear of myself, whether that's a failure or success, things that I feel like I'm not capable to do. This is how when I am in that practice, it really helps me work through those things and see the strength that actually I do possess.
So, given the fact that you do a lot of practice in Eastern medicine, surely this must come up with your patients.
Oh, for sure. It goes hand in hand. A lot of what I do with my career practice is helping people get connected with themselves. I mean, that's a really big part of what I do. Again, I think we tend to, just in being busyness, with the busyness of life, I feel like we get disconnected from that. We get disconnected from our breath. We get disconnected from our body. We don't pay attention to the things that are going on within ourselves until something really bad comes up. And then it's we're aware of it very strongly, right? So through that practice, I am basically shining light, helping shine light on aspects of themselves to reconnect with that.
It almost sounds a little bit like seeing a psychiatrist. So, in that vein, could you possibly give us some advice that if we wanted to seek this sort of route to help us maybe pursue our fear, what should we be looking for in a practitioner?
One of the biggest things I would say is to look for somebody who is first and foremost licensed. The schooling that I went to was 4 years worth of education. It's over 3,000 hours of class time and clinic time. That's going to be your biggest key. Um, Something to look for. You're going to also want to find somebody that you resonate well with, because it's a big part of it is kind of an intimate. It becomes an intimate relationship in the sense that you're sharing a lot with people. You're getting into a space of being vulnerable, and you want to feel comfortable about who you're with. Um, I think that's a big part. So I would say, test drive some people before you finally decide that this is the person that you want to be with. And then I think consistency is a big part. The way that acupuncture works is it's on a cumulative level. So the more frequent that you go, the more that strengthens the treatments. So that would be those would be kind of my three big tips that I would say.
Well, thank you for that. Are you ready for the speed round?
Let's do it.
What individual that's fiction or real has made the most impact on your life?
I would say one of the movies that I was very influenced by was The Count of Monte Cristo. And here's why. This guy was put through a lot, and the challenges that he had to face and overcome in order to kind of regain who he was and his stature in this society. And there was a lot that he had to overcome. He was thrown in jail, and his character was defamed, and yet he still arose out of all of that.
If you could instantly change one thing in the world, what would that be?
If I could instantly change one thing in the world, I would love to see just unity amongst races, religions, people groups.
What's your biggest weakness?
Self-criticism. I would say that's probably my biggest weakness is I'm really hard on myself.
What's your biggest strength?
I would say my optimism. I tend to find the silver lining in most things. It doesn't matter what it is. I tend to find that, and in that I find the peace that I need to face whatever I need to. So
And if you could only have one book to read, what would that be?
I am looking at a book right now by Thich Nhat Hanh, and it's called Being Peace. And every time I read that book, I find more and more nuggets.
What's your idea of a vacation?
A good balanced vacation is being able to relax, be outdoors, being able to kind of explore and have some adventure, but also not be so busy with agendas that you miss things. So
Do you have a favorite sound?
I love the sound of waves hitting the beach. That's like one of my favorite sounds.
And do you have any parting advice for us today, Shawn?
I would say, in relation to what I've been talking about today, I would say the biggest thing that I can lend as far as that's concerned is just finding out who you are, finding strength in that, not being afraid of that, just embracing life within all that you are, because I think by doing that, you can live life to the fullest.
That's great advice indeed. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And I want to thank you so much for joining us today, Shawn. It's been really great and informative.
Thanks so much, Billy, for having me.
Thank you for joining me today. And remember, you cannot achieve everything, but you do have the God-given ability to achieve anything. So stay focused, out of fear, and keep on keeping on. Until next time, be well and peaceful. For more information on today's episode and guest, or for resources that will assist you in overcoming your fears, visit livingbeyondyourfears.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, where 3 times a week we move to a life beyond our fears.